Yo guys, Theo here on Common Sense. Today we're celebrating 4,000 subscribers of the channel. Thank you so much guys. It's been quite a grind, but we reached 4,000 about twice as fast as we reached the other thousands. It's been about a year per thousand and now around half a year to get to 4,000. You know, sometimes I think I could have done more to make the channel grow faster, and I think that's true that I could without abandoning, the way of the channel, selling out or whatever. Because, on the one hand, I like to keep it very raw and real, mostly unedited videos, mostly, basically a guy with his phone doing his thing and sharing it, with the people. I guess even within that, you could do some leveling up in the production or, marketing of the content at least. But on the other hand, I just like it. I like to keep it raw. So we'll see how I will adjust going forward. But, with the evolution of the internet and social media, it's like if you want to play into the algorithm, you gotta do the TikTok thing with people's ever decreasing attention span. That's how you get picked up. Do the 8-second videos, or at least 30-second videos. And I guess you could take little snippets from longer videos and do that as a sort of just trying to bring people in. But I just like it. Like, at least at the foundation of the channel is this, just a guy talking about his shit to the camera and putting it out there. That's how the internet used to be a lot more. For me, I don't know how young all of you are. I know most of you are around my age that are watching. I have the statistics, but for you that are a little younger, I was brought up with the internet. It basically became a thing as I was a kid, and it was very different. It was so much more of a, I just say not wasteland, but just, all these limits now. They're oh, you can't say this, you can't do this, la di da di da. It was much more of a free for all, and there was a certain beauty to that. And yeah, I guess my just my roots there. I just like it, and also everything is becoming increasingly more fake in the world. It's all about the shallow, the surface, and like you know that if you make good progress with fitness, you will see how many that have like huge subscriber count. It's very well produced, but they're spouting a lot of bullshit and lying about stuff, like being on steroids and stuff. So I like to speak to that. That's been a theme with this channel all the time, that quality over quantity, that the people that like me really like me. I can get clients, even there are people that are like 50 times the subscribers I have, but don't really get any clients or anything like that. So I like to speak to you who wants the real, right? But so for this video, I just put down a bunch of shit that I've learned throughout these years. And I'm just gonna go through it. Like, it's gonna be a longer video. I have no idea, I have no real plan. I just have the different things I want to talk about. But I guess I can just start talking about how they started. I've told the story many times. He used to be skinny, fat, loser kind of guy, hipster kind of guy, partying, very lost. Any job I had or education I went to was, it was just a way, having something to do. I had no real true ambition in life, or if I had, the dreams and ambition I did have, they were dead since long, because I thought, there's just no way. I knew I wanted to do something like this, like YouTube. I've been, speaking of being grown up with the internet, like I was on YouTube for the early days, anyone remember Smosh? Their Pokemon video? It was the most viewed. It had a few million views. No, but I've been on YouTube for a long time, and I always wanted to do something like this. But I had the fears. People will judge me. La di da di da. I was blocked by fears, and so yeah, I went, nihilistic path in life, no true ambition or goal. So when a man can't find a purpose, he numbs himself with pleasure, right? So I was just, playing video games and watching TV series, being up all night, out partying, trying to get laid, watching porn otherwise, yeah, just hedonist bullshit, that of course it didn't address any of the spiritual problems I had. And body, mind and soul, it all goes together. So when you gradually make your body worse and worse and worse, you're bound to hit rock bottom at some point, which I did. with those panic attacks. And I got through that. That was my big awakening, you know. It forced me to change many beliefs I had had, that I was just born a certain way. No, this is just my genetics, that I'm anxious and I get depressed and that I have these fears. It's just the way I am, you know. But when I had that first panic attack, I just knew that I can't possibly have been predestined to just end up this way. Something must have gone wrong. So it was the biggest struggle I ever faced, and I had always been running from, the difficult, the fear, the difficult things, challenges, taking the easy route, hiding. And so now I knew I couldn't, because I'll either kill myself eventually, because this is so acutely uncomfortable that I can't go on like this if this is going to be my life now, or the way I'll adapt is to just sit inside and never go out and be triggered, just sit inside, play video games, do bullshit, not be happy at all. And I didn't want that. So I had to face the panic attacks. A long story short, many months, many panic attacks, months that felt like years because of the intensity of this, kind of like if you're on a big psychedelic trip or something. It just feels like forever. Didn't feel like anything was getting better until it did. Coming out, realizing I don't really get the panic attacks anymore. I was so happy. I've been given a second chance that I thought it was over. That's literally like, all the regrets when I had the first panic attack. Fuck. I let it. I must have let it become this way because it was supposed to. And how will I ever get out of it? Not feeling like I ever would. And then I did. And I was still in a very poor state. I was just peaceful finally, but my body stressed and exhausted and that. So I decided to give this with just training, eating a better diet, to go. Started doing negative pull-ups only every other day, following a program, 50pullups.com. 50 pull-ups is kind of insane if you can do, but it is a decent, they have a decent like progression for you if you want to start getting better at pull-ups. I did that every other day. I just cut out what I knew was obvious junk, stopped eating like kebab and pizza and sugary soda all the time, and ate basically rice, chicken, broccoli, like more variety, but like that. So not the most optimal diet, but at least a lot of junk. That's a big part. A good diet is not only with what you eat, it's what you don't eat. And then like with habits and stuff in general. It's not only by doing the right things, it will do a lot for you just not to do the wrong things. Yeah, but so fast, like a couple of weeks of this, and I gradually added in more exercise and more exercises to the pull-ups. I just noticed that I felt better. Yeah, that this was doing something, and I knew this was the way. And I remember how stupid I felt. Like, of course, of course, doing the right things for you don't really I just think back to my old self, that you don't believe you are what you eat and stuff. It's too vague. You don't get it when it's all you've ever known. Junk food and candy shit has been part of your life since forever. You don't really know the difference, and you haven't really thought much about it. It's just an idea that maybe I'd feel better if I ate better food, but it's so obvious. It's like a car. If it's a shit engine and you put shit fuel in, it's not gonna run the best. But if it's nice, you take good care of it, and you put the best fuel in, it's gonna run great. It's the same with you. Human body, more complicated, but it's a good comparison. But yeah, I knew this was the path, and I've been on it ever since. And look, this is what I think is kind of cool. It's gonna tie into some things I put on the paper here, but my core message has been the same since I started the channel. I didn't call it the difficult back then, for instance. Reminder on the phone, pray to God. Yeah, I didn't call it like facing the difficult, but I saw it because I knew that, for instance, with my stage fright that I'd had, I avoided situations where I had to do that, or I drank alcohol, or I looked for like tricks to get around it somehow without facing the fear of just having to face that situation, just as it is, right? And that's what I noticed, that the panic attacks, I didn't try. I didn't go on any medication. I didn't do any therapy. I'm not saying that couldn't be useful, but I did nothing except expose myself to the panic attack situations, right? And I overcame it, and I gained so much. On the other side was not only no more panic attacks, it was like peeling off so many layers of me that I thought was me, you know. I was reborn. Yeah, that's why they call it that, born again Christian. I know that we're going to get into spirituality. I don't really care to call myself a Christian at all anymore. I used to do it just to save time, but I've truly never been like, oh, I believe in the Bible, kind of thing. But they call it that. I think there's a lot of good to many religions, I just want to say. Um, but they call it born again because the way I see it, we're born pure. Children, they go about life the way they're supposed to. They're curious, they're playful, they want to explore, they want to try things and create things and build things, learn things. But then gradually we get corrupted. Like a kid, they are not insecure about anything. They might be shy, for instance, but they don't have insecurities like, oh, uh, people will abandon me if I do this. These things that we take on as we get traumatized by our environment, mainly, our prime, our main caregivers, our parents most of the time, but other people in our surroundings, just the environment we're in, or school, everything like that, around the media, traumatic events, all these things shape us, and we kind of, that's how we fall away from God. We start sleeping. We're living on this program that we take on. And look, there's a lot of useful things about this too, that we have to program. Like, that's what you do. For instance, if you start training, you install new software in your nervous system. But there's a whole lot of things that we install that is just doesn't serve. It's just survival mechanisms as we're kids, and then it doesn't serve us at all anymore. And so that's why it's called born again. It's often, more people than me have said it, when you have such an awakening, it's nostalgic. It feels like being a kid again, because so many of the things that you thought were you, when they go away, it reminds you of like, I used to be that once upon a time. You remember. And that's something I'm gonna come to too. But yeah, like we, yeah, we can talk a bit about it now. We don't really learn anything new ever in this life. We just get reminded and deepen our knowledge of things we really already knew, because we're all part of the same source, God. Everything that there is to know exists within us, just that we forget and we get blinded, and we have to be reminded, and we have to like peel another layer, and but that's one of the things I realized, that I've been running from struggle and challenges all the time, but it didn't really make me feel. Yeah, I was more comfortable in the moment, rather than, we take, for me, stage fright, a big thing, right? Rather than having to face the fear and risk of being abandoned. That I feel like if I show myself in the state that I'm so nervous to people, they will leave me and shit. Instead of having to face that, I just don't, and it's more comfortable. But it also blocked me from doing a lot of things I want. I didn't get happy from that at all. And all the easy now, drinking, porn, all this shit, yeah, it might feel good in a moment, but just wears you down, grinds you down. It doesn't make you feel good, happy, fulfillment. No, no, no. So that's something I discovered through this, and that's what made me, so dedicated, that even when I hadn't programmed myself to be someone that trains a lot, and that I never lost a ball. I was very, very, very consistent. Few slip-ups here and there, of course, but because I had seen the pattern now. It's when I don't want to do something, but that I know is the right thing to do, and do it anyway. That's what eventually leads to growth, leads to me feeling the best. I choose to face the difficult now, and everything becomes easier later. And because this was a big reason I started, when the panic attacks were over, I'm like, okay, that's not gonna ever happen again. And I just realized that, it should. If I take the best care of myself I can physically, that should make me strong, so that even if, stuff happens that would make me feel anxious and stressed or stuff, I'm just in an overall better state, so it doesn't happen like that, right? So that's something I knew from the start. Then I've just been talking about it because it's been kind of meme with Kyriakos Grizzly, and that we're facing for the difficult in that, right? But it's been the same from the start. And also, it's like when you go through something like that, for me, it's like revolutionary. Like it's like I've been living a lie my entire life, and the curtain is just pulled, and I see the endless possibilities, and I feel the best I ever had. And you just want to give back. Then that's why I started the channel. Uncommon Sense, like the process for me, started like 1 year before the channel. The channel has been a thing now for 3.5 years, a little more, and I've been training and doing all this shit for 4.5 years or a little more. So sometimes I wish I had started earlier, but the thing is, I didn't quite know that I was gonna get so into it. Like I knew, like, yeah, I'm gonna train, I'm gonna take good care of myself, and I wanna reach a good shape, but I didn't quite realize how far I would take it. But yeah, you just want to give back, and that's what I've wanted to do with this channel. Just everything I've learned, talk about my story, share it with you guys. Those of you that can, just get something from watching the videos, and I've got an amazing feedback, by the way. It's been, when I've had tougher times during these years, it's been one of the most uplifting things for me to hear when someone says that, you took me through a hard time. I almost ended it, but I kept listening to what you said, and I followed your advice, and now I feel better than ever. It's amazing to me, because that's what you realize too when you live, you know when you're depressed and anxious and blah blah blah, even though you might feel like you care a lot about other people and you're very selfish often. To be frank, you're yeah, like even when you feel like you do stuff for other people, maybe you do it for your sake. Oh, you people please, for instance. Because oh no, I like being nice to people, but it's really, I don't want to get abandoned. I need to do this so I get to be with these people, etc. But then when you have this sort of spiritual awakening, I just realized that this is too good to be kept for just me. What's the point of that? Like, yeah, and it's the funny thing, this balance, that you have to be very selfish in a sense. You have to invest a lot in yourself, but in the end, that's the least selfish, because you make yourself so capable that you just have an abundance. You have so much to give, and that's the point, though. You can't just become a just care about yourself. You invest a lot in yourself, so you have a lot to give to others. But yeah, I guess just walk. There's so many things. This could be a long, long, long video. But I put down some bullet points here. Just walk through. So I started with more of the just physical stuff first, and then go to more, mindset, spiritual stuff. So it's so I just put some things to have some kind of things to start to talk about. So training. One thing I just put there is, because I'm not gonna go into like, oh, this many, these compound exercises, this many. It's not that. That's what I try to do on this channel a lot too. By the way, not just teach the technicalities. Like I do that a lot with when you have a coaching client and stuff. For instance, you got to start somewhere. Like here's the program and all that, right? But I try to make you understand the big picture so that you can kind of get it together for yourself a lot. So that's kind of how I'm going to go through a lot of this too. So I put being relentless, because I keep getting questions like, oh, do you take creatine? Do you take creatine? And people that just suspect I'm on steroids, and it's like, from certain people, I can like, it's like this should be the difference between you and me, that I take creatine or that I would be on roids. I'm not, but people lie to themselves so much. They really think they put in all the work. So I'd really like to see anyone go and live their life exactly like me for years and not have amazing results. Being relentless, what I mean by it is that so many people, they fail, or they hit walls, they do some kind of slip up, and they're not relentless enough. Then they're like, fuck it, and they just stop. And I've that's what I said. I've had my slip ups and that, but I've never let it become a trend. I just been like, always be improving. Okay, I made one mistake, but I talked about it in one video. Progress is not linear, but if you embrace that, it almost kind of is. It's like, because progress is supposed to, it looks like something like that, but the more you can stop a little downswing, some kind of mistake, and not let it escalate like so many people do, then they are smaller. So that if you just do the right things, keep educating yourself, understand what it's about, with the technical, focus on compound exercises, this kind of volume, progressive overload, high intensity, but if you just do that consistently, you're relentless, you refuse. If you're not making progress, even when you're relentless, then you change something and you just keep at it, you can get so far. I put always be improving here too. That's the kind of, I have to always be improving. I don't have to be perfect. Both as in I can make mistakes. I can not quite have the discipline to do everything I know I'm supposed to do, but also not just get it right, not just understand perfectly exactly what I'm supposed to do, but you try to improve all the time, both in your practice, but then you go, no paralysis by analysis. You don't just sit and read, don't just sit and watch videos, but you do that too. And you realize, maybe I did this thing wrong. I've been, putting in the work great, but maybe in the wrong things. I changed this. Be relentless, always be improving. And I put natural potential here because that's something, it's also something I talk about, that when you start listening to your own voice and you see that's what I've done, uncommon sense. I am the highest authority in my life. I take in ideas from other people, but I don't 100% believe it until I've seen it for myself. Uh, you know, um, bees. I'm a little worried. I've gotten stung by bees here before. They chase you. I was actually running from a bee and I heard zzz, and then it stung me in the neck. But yeah, just as a thing with training and muscle, because even though it's holistic, this channel, and it's a bigger message just than build muscle, but it's of course a big thing too, and we want to talk a bit about it like that. The information about it is like everyone gets, it's very confusing, I understand, because there's both a lot of people that just blatantly lie about being on steroids when they are, but then so many that just are in good shape, and you see them on Instagram with perfect pictures all the time. They get accused of being natural when they're like, my size or something, and it's like, it's so blackpilling. I just want to say, there's no roof to the natural potential. Like, yeah, at some point when you've gotten old enough, like, you're not gonna get bigger and bigger still when you're 8 years old, but basically, the progress is gonna be, it's gonna, be smaller and smaller increments of progress, but you're gonna keep doing some progress always. Like, I've already, because okay, start listening to your own voice was what I'm talking about. Sometimes when you get a lot of outside influence, you have periods when you doubt some things. Maybe is this it? I had that with fasting too, that we're gonna come to a bit. It's like, maybe maybe it is like that. But I decided at one point, when I saw some charts of how much muscle you can build naturally, I was like, but I'm almost there after 2 years. Like, really, and I was a bit blackpilled about it for a while, but I just decided that, what, I'm just gonna fuck what everyone says, and I'm just gonna do the right things. And I've made so much progress since then, and I don't feel like I'm done at all. Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be slower from this point, but I absolutely don't feel like I'm done. I can probably get to weighing like 90 kilos. Like, right now, I think I don't have a scale here. I would guess I weigh like 84, 85, maybe. I can probably have a similar level of leanness and get to 90 kilos in a few years. Yeah. And one thing I just randomly put that it's a bit more technical is full range of motion training. I've always been a fan, like, not cheating and stuff, but really, I just noticed that for like general strength and hypertrophy and mobility and injury prevention goals, full range of motion training is just so great. Ever since I started doing like ass to grass squats, I do ring stuff, very deep ring push-ups, deep dips, um, dead hang chin-ups and pull-ups, and the same with all exercise. I just do as full of a range of motion, try to get a stretch in as much as possible. It just does wonders for all those things I listed there at the same time. And then if you want to train like a power lifter, if you care about like a flat regular bench press 1 rep max, which I don't really, yeah, you're gonna train some in a shortened range of motion. And I do some shortened range of motion exercises too, but I just like this as a general rule of thumb. Full range of motion training, like to the extreme, ass to grass squatting, deep ass dips, etc. All of this, it's going to be great. It's going to build a lot of muscle, mobility, strength. Just maybe not if you try to do powerlifting, stuff. That would be the best approach. And just injury prevention, training muscles and joints through a full range of motion. Amazing. Like, I never could have believed the amount of mobility I have now. Not that I have these amazing, that I have the front split and side split and that, but just generally, my body is so mobile. Like, I never feel truly stiff. Even if when I've been sick and sitting still more, I try to get out and I do light exercise and stuff. but I'm sitting still more, and stuff like that would tense me up immediately before. It just doesn't anymore. So yeah, nutrition, kind of simple here. Vertical diet, since I found that that's been basically the foundation of my diet. And it's not that you have to follow it to a T, but I like learning about it. It's like a good entry point to how to structure your diet. So, the majority of your calories come from red meat and white rice. You could go with potatoes if you're, cutting, or someone that's more overweight, maybe had to have a little lower carb for a while. But, that's the majority of your calories. Then you sprinkle in, carefully selected like fruits and vegetables to address micronutrient needs. And I just think it's such a great way to construct it. And of course, you get a lot of micronutrients from the red meat. That would be a thing too. I think everyone's diet should be centered around animal foods. For animal protein, fats, also very micronutrient dense, all these animal foods. It's crazy that we didn't get to learn that in school. Really, so eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables. Yeah, some are okay, but the meat, the meat, insects all over the place. And yeah, I put carbs are great because so many people are into fasting and stuff. Oh, keto. I hate keto. Intervention diet. Diabetic or just very food addicted. Yeah, maybe for a while. I just don't think it's natural. Uh, Carbs are amazing, especially the more fit you are, the more muscle mass you are, the more activity you have, the more you train, the higher carb. But carbs should be incorporated in everyone's diet, in my opinion, like except for if it's not, if you are low carb, it's supposed to be a temporary situation. That's my opinion. um, yeah, carbs are just great. Nutrient partitioning, so in the end, calories in, calories out, especially if you eat just whole foods, it's going to be, with losing or putting on weight, it's going to be a calorie equation. Do you take in more energy than you exert, than you expend? But what I noticed is that it's you generally can eat more when you eat whole foods. Like in general, not even talking the foods I talk about, like meat, potatoes, carrots, vegetables, fruit. You eat the good stuff. The body just uses it more productively. A good example, the extreme example I used to say, but to make the point, is that what I'm eating now, probably 3,500 calories more sometimes. Um, if I was eating the same calories, but I eat only donuts, so basically just carbs, no protein, I would, now I'm putting on weight slowly. So let's say, my maintenance calories, let's say they're like 3,200 now or something instead. So I'm not putting on any weight eating that. Or I eat that in donuts instead. I'm gonna lose muscle and put on fat because, I'm not getting any protein for my muscle, and then we have a whole bunch of just excess crap calories that are going to be stored as fat. So, calories in, calories out. Yeah, it's true, but there are like asterisks to that, right? Um, a high protein is something I put. I think people talk a little bit too little about this. But because we tend to, with protein, focus on, this many grams per kilo body weight for best muscle building results. Thing is, yeah, someone like myself, I probably just need to eat maybe 170 grams for optimal muscle building results. But that's not the only thing with protein. And we're talking having high amount of animal foods in the diet just because it's healthy in general with all the micronutrients too, then you're gonna get over that. You're gonna get more protein. Um, it's also for weight loss and just generally like being able to eat and be happy, feel satiated. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, so high protein is good for that reason. And it's also the protein, again, that calories in, calories out, there are some asterisks to it. It is the macronutrient that it takes the most energy to digest. So, a calorie of protein, effectively, when you digested it, you took in less. And so, in a deficit, especially, high protein is such a good strategy to, hold on to, or maybe even be able to build muscle, because, protein makes up a lot of tissue. It's building blocks for a lot of tissue in the body, but also keep you satiated while also, you know, being less calories in the end because you burn more just as you eat it. So high protein, important there. fasting, I mean, there's so much I could say about fasting. I just put down my favorite things here. Amazing for cutting. It's just so simple, just don't eat. Drink the snake juice, have the sodium and potassium, and don't eat. Enjoy. It's so simple. Instead of, I have people count calories too. I don't have everyone, especially people that are in a good spot to recomp. I like to have them on a deficit with high protein. But yeah, it's just so simple. When I'm fasting, it's like, okay, it's not something I'm supposed to do. It's something I'm supposed to not do. Eat. Good. You know. Um, yeah, and reverse food addiction, I think, is one of the most, I didn't understand it. Like, for the first year when I was training, I was doing much more of a mainstream fitness approach to dieting. I ate many, like 6 smaller meals, many protein shakes and that. Um, and I had to use a lot of discipline to stay away from junk food and shit. I remember walking in the grocery store, I would like be tempted when I said, I'm like, really, I'm not eating this stuff anymore. But then when I started doing a lot of fasting and planning my refeed so much with good food, I just started noticing both that I don't really suffer from hunger anymore now that I've done day long fast many times. It's like if I don't have the opportunity to eat on a day, I have to eat a little later. It's just like, okay, it's like nothing, you know. Your insulin sensitivity is great like that. You're just not addicted to the stimuli, getting these hits, dopamine hits of eating, right? But also this, that you actually, with foods, especially with all these extreme kinds of junk foods that are available now, we become like drug addicts. We have gotten a stronger and stronger dose, or just stronger and stronger drug, so that the weaker drug, does nothing for us. It can be kind of the same. If you're used to eating so much junk food, regular whole foods might seem boring to you, but just think, a human born completely away from all this shit, they would love just eating some meat, just picking a fruit out of the tree, of course. So yeah, fasting is the fastest way to resynthesize the dopamine receptors connected to your taste buds, so that whole foods actually start tasting good to you again. That's the thing with the way I live my life now. I don't miss like junk food at all. Like, not at all. Like, if I for some reason have to go, like, it's just practical while traveling or something, and I have to eat something, a little less healthy, I could, like, oh yeah, that tasted good, but to me, it's too much knowing also how much crap they put in. Like, it's the worst. It's the worst. For the kick you get from eating junk food, it's so much crap. It's so much crap in there that it's just not worth it for me at all. And it's such a good place to be. It's, I it can be easy if you enjoy eating a lot of food. I don't have any troubles putting on weight. But it's hard to just get really fat when you don't eat junk food, like, literally ever, basically. And fasting is great for that. And then I put, like, there's so many things, but the mental, spiritual health, I just think it's amazing. It's one of the best things you can do to get in touch with yourself, kind of reset yourself. You go out of this overstimulated state we often are in the modern world. Like, there's so much input, food, but maybe even drugs or alcohol, just watching screens all the time. Like we're just sitting and living in this, mist or whatever of a different input. So we don't spend much time with ourselves, right? And when you fast, take away something so fundamental as food, it takes you to the present moment, really. You're just you now. And for me, it's, just generally when I've not been feeling bad and stuff, you just have different insights when you're fasting and that. But also when I've actually been in lower states, fast have, if not, gradually through doing more fast, actually gradually, elevating my state so I feel good. But if not that, it at least sometimes, when we're depressed or whatever, going through something, becomes kind of like, oh, it's here. It's on our. We're thinking about, oh, how will this go in the future, and blah 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 blah. When fasting just gives you a chance to step outside of that. So I just think it's amazing for that reason. Okay, then I have some general, like, points here. Self improvement. Okay, I put, you're literally never done. So that's a thing. I can see it again with this, that we never really learn something new. We just remember. I know that ever since I was a kid, I reached these different points where I felt like, I knew nothing before, but now, I'm done. I'm smart now. Now I kind of understand how things work, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of years later, I would look back and be like, I thought I knew everything then, but now, no. And there came a point where I realized, okay, I'm never done. But then I had my huge spiritual awakening after this panic attack experience, and it's such a radical shift that even if I don't consciously think like I'm done, I think there is a permanent change for the better that's happened, which is true in a sense. But I think that I can't take any back steps. That all the things I got rid of, none of it will ever come back. And that's something I had to learn the hard way when some, real life shit happened. That okay, I can definitely suffer and feel really, really bad. Not have suicidal thoughts, but not seeing any meaning to it all again. Um, but another point to that is it's easy to think like, oh, I've kind of mastered this thing now. I've been training for a couple of years. I never really feel like I'm missing work. I've mastered it now. But it's crazy how much you can just keep shaping yourself into, make it even more obvious. Like training, I will take the example that it didn't take long for me. I would say training at home. I remember like having this. I wanted to. I had to fight this big, the inner bitch a lot, but I pulled through with my workouts for the most part. Then I started to go to the gym very fast. It was like it's non-negotiable. It's just happening. I got much more sore and wrecked from it and all that back then. But a thing like squats, even though I'm naturally quite strong in my legs, like I could actually use more weight on the squat than some people I knew that have been going to the gym. I could immediately. I guess I've been doing a bunch of sports when I was a kid. Maybe something from that. Um, uh, 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 yeah, but squats. It took me like 3 years until I actually enjoyed it on some level. Bees, come on, come on. Um, I would always dread it, and I felt it's so tough. And now, yeah, a set of squats can be tough, but it's not really that tough anymore compared to before. And it's like a thing like fasting. I came to a point where I felt like, yeah, there's if I've said I'm gonna do a fast, there's just no way I'm breaking it. But I would have these periods of the fast when I don't really feel great. My sleep would suffer a lot, and I thought like, that's just what fasting is. I've mastered it, as in there's no chance of me slipping up and just breaking the fast early. But this is what fasting is like. But even that I've noticed, like I've adapted more and more. Fasting is very effortless for me now. Like that moment during the fast is the most difficult, and many of my clients agree with me. Is like the first 24 hours, no problem, but sometime on the second day there's gonna be difficulty. It's just less and less of that. I sleep better. It's like, yeah, it's crazy that even when you get really good at something, it can just be more and more and more obvious. Um, I think it's so cool. It just becomes more and more part of who you are. Um, I put facing the difficult here again. You know, it just been deepen and deepen for me. Like both this choosing self-imposed adversity, as in doing a fast, training hard, pushing yourself hard, going up early, cold showers, cold plunges, sauna, push it hard in the sauna, meditation that I will talk a little bit about too. The self-imposed adversity, it makes like we went there. If you saw the video, we went to Evia and we went away with little clothes to a lake in the middle of nowhere. Go in, have to go back with my super wet shoes. There's no cheating. There's not even an option of cheating and getting back. It's a very uncomfortable experience. And then just how nice it is to get in the car with air conditioning. And then we went to this tavern, sat by the fire, and ate a bunch of meat. How much more you enjoy that? Like difficult now, easy later. Just as in, easy now, you just drink and you do bullshit stuff, and then you get hungover or you get sick from your lifestyle, and that. It's both that, but it's also you're better prepared when difficulty outside of your control comes. If you've faced a lot of difficulty, you're tougher. You're gonna be tougher even in the face of completely different difficult. But and then the last thing is when life is difficult, I guess I'm probably coming to this in the spiritual part of this. Um, there's always, no matter how you feel about it right now, if you always know, there's always an upside to every downside, you know. That things are difficult now. I didn't want them to be. If I could choose, things would be different right now, but this is how they are right now. You just accept that, do your best, and push through it. You're always going to see. Tell me, we'll get more into that on a later point. Oh yeah, I put you can get better at anything, literally anything. So cool, you know. If you think of yourself as a character in a role-playing game, it's just that it's the most advanced role-playing game ever. There's almost no limit, you know. Literally any aspect of yourself you can get better at, like making videos like this, talking to the camera. I have a kind of natural talent for talking, but I've become much better. Like today, it's like I'm not feeling bad or anything, but I'm quite tired from, you know, I was sick. I didn't sleep much, and now I've caught up a bit on it, but it's like I'm a bit under recovery, just like, but you know, I can do it. It's no problem, right? But the thing, like for me, to take an example, like a blind spot, is I'm kind of naturally disorderly. Like my my cleaning lady I had at home described me as a tornado. That I, if I don't think about it, I will leave a mess behind me. Um, and you know, some people I know, they were just never like that. Were just always orderly, put things in their place like this. I've never been like that, so I felt like I can't really be orderly. But I realized now that's a self-limiting belief. That's I'm choosing it. Yeah, it might be a weakness, natural weakness. But so that's something I've started taking more time to just, you know, tidy up my apartment. And yeah, maybe I never get to that 100% pedantic thing, but I can get better at anything. So, you know, anything you feel like is a weakness or something you're not great at, literally anything, whatever comes to mind, just by practicing, you can become better. Always. A process orientation, I put. It's something, it's become more and more. It's always, I see it with clients, and I often recognize, you know, I talk about it often as people that come to me and become my clients, as they have started walking on the same path as me. That's why they come to me. They see something, you know, they see I have something they want, but also some kind of similarity, right? And it's like I'm standing further down the road and can like, yes, walk this path, but look out for this and walk like this. Da, 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 da. And but what you can tell is that people earlier on in their journey, they're more focused on the result. You know, oh, how fast do you think I can lose this amount of weight? When do you think I'll have abs? When will I get this number in the training? Blah blah. And the thing is, the less you focus on the outcome and the result, the faster you get it, because you focus on what you had to do each day. It's also when people focus too much on the result, it feels so far away. I have 30 kilos to lose, and you say I lose, like from these fasts we're doing, like maybe a kilo. I have 30 fasts to do. You know, I just made up. That is a completely random example. But if you just focus on nailing every fast and then nailing the refeeds, and nailing the workouts, then just because you're focusing on the process and getting everything optimized, it might go faster and you feel better from it. You're happy with yourself, and then you actually see some results faster, and then it's even easier to keep being process oriented. So, you know, all the winners, that's what I noticed, all the most successful people, they only use, they have short-term goals more, like these things I want to do today, you know, rather than these things I want to do this year. Those kinds of things, they are far away. They have some idea that, yeah, that thing far away, we're gonna get there eventually, but let's focus on things I gotta do now, you know, being process oriented. um, okay, states I put. So state, it's like a state of being, you know, high and low states. So that's something I've noticed, that even after having some kind of big time spiritual awakening where there is a lot of permanent change to you, um, you can enter higher and lower states, meaning just ways of how you feel and then how you function. In a high state, you feel great, and a lot of it's like being motivated. You know, you're just riding this wave. Yeah, everything doesn't come free, but it feels like you have this boost to do everything extra a lot of the time. Um, then you have the low state when you feel the opposite. Like even things that might feel easy to you otherwise just start feeling heavy and difficult. Then there's, of course, it's not black and white. There's states in between there. Just something I've observed. And it can both kind of be, you can both kind of change your state on a daily basis, but there's also kind of long and short term states. Like if you had a lot of grief over something, let's say a breakup or someone close to you passing away or something, that will put you in a lower state. It's you might come out, have better days and stuff, but it's going to be a lower state for a longer time because it's something to process, right? And sometimes, on the contrary, you just run on these really, really high states. I put here that goes into that. It's something that's quite new to me, so I don't have too much to say about it. But frequency slash vibration, I see that a lot of successful people talk about that. I know Nicholas Tesla, I think, said that to understand the universe, understand vibrations, frequencies, and like my former coach used to say, or he says it all the time, Wes Watson, your frequency is what you frequently see. It kind of means that the frequency you're vibing at right now, that you attract what you are basically. And so, go googling, look up that, there's a great illustration of different emotions and what frequency you're at. The highest one is enlightenment, and I think at the bottom is like shame and guilt and that. And yeah, when I came to Greece, and this happened before, I talked about it with the States. A friend of mine called it God consciousness. I've thought of it kind of like when you're like Neo in the Matrix, you just see the code to everything. Like everything and nothing surprises you. Like you think everything is amazing, it's quite incredible, the divine timing of everything, but everything also makes perfect sense. That's when you're vibing at that enlightenment frequency. And that happened to me when I came to Greece and just experienced a lot of rapid personal growth. And I feel like I'm in that state all the time. Then I was hit with some quite intense personal life stuff. I was pushed to the bottom. And now I gradually gaining momentum. I'm somewhere in the middle on the frequency state again. Acceptance is sort of a mid mid to high frequency. I feel like that's where I'm at right now. I'm not like beaming with this, like, wow, I'm so excited. But I'm happy, I'm content, and see things quite clearly. And it's something I'm gonna dive deeper into. But yeah, the state has definitely to do with your frequency. Elevate, vibe higher, raise your frequency, enter that higher state. Okay, then we have, how long is this video now? Oh, it's quite long. It's gonna be like an hour video or something. Spirituality. God is real, but not the person, I put, and that's what I felt all the time. Like when I started waking up, going through that panic, I had just noticed some presence in me, and yeah, this I was actually starting to do a video on my spiritual beliefs. I went up in the mountains, but I noticed that I had very low battery on my phone because there was no electricity in my building because they were doing something there. So I never did that video. So I'm gonna have to keep it a bit short. Maybe do that one. Hey, if you're interested in that one, let me know in the comments. Um, but what I realized is that we're we really just all part of God. We're the universe observing and interacting with itself through the lens of being a human being with a body and mind. So the true us, like Theo, that's not really me. That's a name assigned to this vessel, this body and mind. But who I really am, and the one that observes Theo, his thoughts and his action, and to some extent, then, especially vibing on a higher frequency, I get more influence over Theo because I realize Theo is not really me. It's just my vehicle that this part of this consciousness that we're all from. That it's just my vessel. I hope that makes sense to you. Um, Karma is real. What you put out in this world, you will get back. It's just, it's not always obvious how and when, but if you put out good, and you can't do it for selfish reasons. When you perfectly align, you just know that doing good will serve you as well. But you can't go about it like, oh, I'll do this nice thing because then I'll get this. If you have selfish motivation, it doesn't work. But the more good you put out in the world, the more you will get back. I've seen it with this YouTube channel and that. Like when I've been completely selfless, like I've been enjoying it, but I've just wanted to start doing it for the sake of helping people. Like people have, I've got, it's my job now, and I get clients, but feedback in my life, the people that care for me, want to do stuff for me, and if I help them with something, they'll help me back. I've seen it so much. And I also see when you do the wrong, it's about doing right and wrong, right? So it's not only what you do to other people, but if you choose consistently, because you know disrespecting this vessel you've been given, for instance, I've been talking about, by making it fat and unhealthy, and that's not good, and you're gonna get punished, and you do, right, because you get sick and that. So karma is real. It just is. And there is a lesson in everything, I put. Meaning, like, everything happens for a reason if you choose to see it that way. Like, trust me, because everyone, when you say things like that, everyone's mind goes to the worst times in their life, the most traumatic events and all that. It's not to say that those things were good and you should be happy or anything. It's just that if you embrace that everything could be happening for a reason and everything is a lesson, and you don't allow this to completely overtake you. Like, of course, with traumatic events, we're not going to be able to be perfect always, but like, okay, I just collect myself and go about my life. You have to suffer a bit. You might have to, cope somehow. That's fine. It's not about being perfect. But if you just accept, I don't know why exactly, this is terrible, it's very difficult, it's painful, but I refuse to be a victim, and I refuse to stop doing good, both as in, take my anger and suffering out on other people, but also, again, start coping. Stop doing all these good, right things, taking care of yourself, and start resorting to vices and all that. I'll go on, I'll do my best. Maybe I'm not able to perform as well as I do in higher states again, but I choose to believe that there was, that I can come to a point where I'm happy again. And the thing is, again, you're never gonna have to feel like happy about certain things happening. But if you go knowing this could have been a lesson, I could learn something from this, I can grow from this. Yeah, something, it feels like something was taken away from me, but I can also gain something from this. Like with my panic attacks, it was very difficult and all that, but you know, and I wouldn't wish that just happening to someone, because I don't know that I get through with it even. But also because I wasn't a victim of someone doing something to me or something, it's easier to say. But that was the best thing that could have happened to me. I learned so much through it. I grew from it. But at the time, I felt like, why did this have to happen to me? You know. So you just embrace that. Have that stoic knowledge that if you have faith and do the right things still, according to the best of your ability, you will come to a point where you're not necessarily like happy that that happened, but you see how it fits in the whole picture. Because now you're better than ever again. And yeah, we need struggle to overcome. That's also like, I wish it was easier. Oh, why is it like this? Oh, there couldn't be a God. The thing is, no, if you want to take away pain, suffering, and difficulty, you want to take away all the opposite things too. Because everything has to, you can't just be happy if you can't be sad. You can't feel pleasure if you can't suffer, and so on, right? So, that's why you can even, like, you can find some, like, doing some things that are difficult, like that you choose, you can find some kind of enjoyment in, right? Like, because this makes me stronger. But even you can have that kind of stoic knowledge. Like, I had a terrible January, to be honest. Like, old wounds that I thought were healed were ripped up. So I both experienced that pain, but I also experienced the shame of, like, fuck, I thought I'd overcome this. Am I still like this? But I have somewhere in the back of my mind, like, okay, that means there's a possibility to overcome this. It means there's a possibility to peel another or even several layers. I've already done that, and I'm gonna come to a point where I'm very happy about it. Now I'm just kind of exhausted from it. You see, you have to know that. You have to know everything that is difficult, and we have a preference. It's easier feeling good and all that, but it wouldn't even exist if the opposite didn't exist. So embrace it, as in, you're not going to be able to enjoy terrible things happening in your life or feeling terrible. It's in there, you're feeling terrible, but have that stoic knowledge. Like, okay, there's a chance to overcome. It's because I feel like this. We'll come to a point where I'm like, feeling the opposite, right? And I put just God, Satan, as in, again, I don't have, I'm not going to talk too much about it, the video is so long already. Again, I don't mean like God, Satan, that there's a guy sitting up there and a guy down there, but there is this duality to the universe. I talked about it before. Like, it's both that, there would be no light without darkness. It has to be darkness to be brightened up by the light. But also how it's kind of, there exists like a perverted and a good version of like everything. Like what's a good example of that? Like the most extreme example, like killing someone, mostly a very evil deed, right? But if you do that to protect someone, because you're getting attacked and you had no choice, then it was the right thing to do. So it's about the duality like that. But this, that, the light and the darkness, good and evil, suffering, pleasure, um, difficult, easy, breathe in, breathe out, parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. There is this duality to life. But one point about God and Satan, and we pretend as if they're people like that. What God does a lot, again with the struggle and that, is that the things you want in life, um, because in order to be able to prove that you're a good person and you do what's right no matter what, you have to be faced with adversity that tempts you to go an easy route, doing evil stuff or doing shortcuts, um, like it's like how you can't really be courageous if you're not afraid of something. Like if I do something that someone else thinks is scary, but I don't feel courageous. Like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of a badass. Maybe I was afraid of this, but because I've done this so much, I'm not anymore. But I'm not actually courageous in the moment that takes for me to do something that's scary, right? Same thing. In order to be good, I have to be tempted to do something else. So to get rewarded in life and to get good things for yourself, very often the path to there will look like the opposite, like something is taken away from you. I've been doing all the right things and now this happens to me, because now you get a chance to overcome, and then you will eventually get rewarded even more. And Satan, evil, is the opposite. It looks like, I just have to do this and I get this, steal something, or I take drugs, I feel good now, that's great. But then something takes away. It's because karma is real. I trust me, evil acts, if not by something outside of you, you will get consumed from the inside. A lot of evil people, you think that they're getting away with it, they aren't. If they aren't getting, punished by the world, they are getting punished somehow within. Trust me, because the things they thirst after, the most evil people, um, it's like chasing the dragon. Can never get enough. And somehow we all have the conscience. We all really know what's right and wrong. And trust me, they will get what's coming from them in this life or the next one. But what Satan does is he seemingly gives you something away right away, and then takes something else and more away afterwards. And the opposite is true with God. Seemingly, it seems like, fuck, everything was taken from me. I'm suffering. Why? I've done the right thing. You keep doing the right thing, and then you'll see. It's been all the times throughout these years I've been doing Uncommon Sense when I've been faced with something really, really difficult. I've been feeling terrible and I doubt everything, Been able to stick to the right thing, not slip up. Not being perfect, like I said, but, overwhelmingly, don't stray off the path. I've come out on the other side even stronger and happier and more grateful because I overcame that and I value everything more. It's again with a contrast, right? Uh, yeah, yeah. I guess one thing I put here also, our thoughts create our reality, subconscious beliefs. Something I realized, I talked about a lot. Well, I guess I didn't really go into meditation much. But, meditation is good. Again, to get just like with fasting, but in another way, you're spending time with yourself. Either actually sitting down like this, just going on walks without any fucking podcast or music every once in a while. Just spend some time with you. You figure out a lot of stuff. It's uncovered. Most people just can't be alone with their own thoughts, even. Or most people, but a lot of people. They have to be distracted by, if it's not other people, some screen, eating, whatever, Spend more time just with yourself. It's the only way to get to know yourself. Most people, they don't even know who they are. Like even me, my old self. So much that you think is you is just a trauma response and it's just conditioning. It's just autopilot shit that you experience. Then the more time you spend with yourself and you actually notice what's the real you, again, the soul there, the more actually you see who you are and you have more influence over your life. But what I've noticed is, how thoughts are lies. That they are, many things we think, they come from the outside to begin with. We have thoughts with words, but human language isn't even a perfect means of, we try to describe things, abstract things for each other. We can make points and we kind of make each other understand. But we can't just transfer, you know, perfect information between each other, right? It's still up to the receiver. How do they receive the way you phrase it with your words? So all these thoughts, they come from the outside as well. They're not perfect. They can be more or less in line with the truth, but they are not perfect. And a lot of the thoughts we think are our own, they were put there from the outside. But so another thing I noticed is that our thoughts create a reality. It is these things, like ridiculous little things, like saying I'm the best, oh I love me, I'm so happy when but also talking about, yeah, I'm becoming the person I always wanted to be. Yeah, I am losing more and more weight each day. All these things, the more you say them and think them, the more true they become. And the more when you think negatively, I'm never gonna lose the weight. Blah 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 blah. You don't. You create your reality with the thoughts. But something I've noticed too now is how much subconscious thoughts we have. Like many times we think we're using logic, coming up with thinking consciously about things, but it's really subconscious beliefs that dictates us. Yeah, I've noticed it with. I'm not gonna. The video is so long already, but some areas in my life where I noticed, I thought I was thinking logically and consciously about it, but I realized I've been driven by some subconscious limiting beliefs. That most of them you picked up as a child when you were like 3 to 7 years old. Um, let's see. Yeah, I put the reminders here again. That we never really truly learn something new. It's like we always knew these things, but we have to be reminded so many times. We can remind ourselves, but other people too. Like that's why it's even useful with videos like what I do. You keep repeating a lot of the same shit, but it's because people don't just watch a thing and be like, yeah, okay, now I know exactly. You come at it from new angles. You peel another little layer, and you just we remind each other. That's what we're supposed to do here, and it's quite interesting. Many times I feel like I learn something new, and then I don't do that much right now, but watch an old video or something. When some client was, oh, I watched this old video here, it was great, and I go back and watch it. When I watch it, yeah, I see a less developed version of myself overall. It's an old video, but then I hear something and say, I knew that already back then. I realize I just remembered it many times and refined this many times. It's like how I said, the core message of this channel has been the same. Just I keep remembering more and refining it more. And then a little sort of end here. Yeah, we've got just about above an hour. Most people are NPCs, I put. So most people just aren't as awake as us guys. It's like I said, people just live on their autopilot. Their trauma, really. Trauma doesn't always mean like intense negative experiences. Just the way they were shaped growing up. Which now I mean it's like go to school, get a job, blah blah blah, get an apartment, have your smartphone, blah blah blah, vote for this party, believe this thing, blah blah blah. Most people that just go about their life like that, just following the script, really. And that's why the world is so fucking fucked up. I put that here, the Matrix. We are living in the Matrix. Or like, we aren't. That's the thing. It's not black and white either, because, okay, we might be plugged into a simulation here, but I'm talking if it is a simulation here. It's like, you can wake up more, peel more layers, and unplug another, plug from the Matrix. But it's like having this big awakening, that there's like a main switch, and then we can keep peeling layers. Because most people are just asleep. And it's kind of a crazy thing to read, but I just want to validate you. If you see a lot of crazy stuff in the world, if you feel strong emotions about it, no matter what side you are on politically or whatever, you're upset about it, angry about it, sad, afraid of it, then you're not quite unplugged yet, because that's the way. Whether you buy the establishment narrative of things or you go on the complete opposite, you're controlled by it if you're afraid of it and angry about it. So, because that's my point. Like, yeah, I see a lot. I used to be very upset, basically a right-wing extremist, right? And then I changed some opinions. Like, I don't blame whole complete groups responsible for a lot of, it's just because that's just findings. You have hate inside of you, you hate yourself, and you find some outlet for it. No, it's because of these things, the politicians, the media, or whatever. and now I'm just like, yeah, there's a lot of, a lot of politicians and journalists and that they are not good people, but I'm just not upset about it. I just see it for what it is. So I just want to validate your perspective. If you feel different, if you feel like you see a lot of things that most people don't, I just want to validate you. You're right. The world is completely fucked up. Our collective goal here is to wake up and raise our collective consciousness. Um, but most people are just lagging behind. And we all we can do is just do our part, live our best lives, and there are gonna come times when we have an ability to wake up more people. Um, but it's like, how do I put that? Yeah, just don't let it control you. Like, because these things only control. It's like when the whole pandemic bullshit happened, right? Like, I didn't believe it for a second. Like, just intuitively. That's the thing too. When you start thinking for yourself, it's not that you have to sit and do research and look at all the facts or anything. You can just tell, this is bullshit. They're saying this, I see the numbers. Like, even if some more people are dying or something, like, people are dying from a lot of stuff all the time. A lot of stuff, the junk food, the alcohol. Why is this? Nothing about this makes sense. And I could basically go about my life as usual because I just didn't feel, no, this is not real. I don't let it influence me. Of course, Sweden was a place where I, for once, the least extreme about something with all the mandates and shit. But, even when you had to play along a little bit, if you just see it for what it is, like, oh, yeah, I have to do this now a little bit. Um, it's acceptable. It doesn't really control you, but you feel like, man, they're oppressing us. I have to do this. They're taking away my rights. Rah, rah, rah. Then that becomes your reality, and your thoughts create your reality. So I guess there's a little, I don't know. I could many of these things I could talk about for so much longer, but I just wanted to do a longer video, go through some core things that the channel is about. Just touch a little bit on everything, right? So thanks again, guys. Yeah, thanks. If you're an OG of the channel, I should have mentioned it earlier probably, but please let me know how long you've been following. If you had any feedback on the channel, any way I've helped you, something you've learned, something you'd like to see more of, whatever. I appreciate you guys a lot. Yeah, I want to keep growing the channel slowly and steadily. Of course, I think this channel would have the potential to be in the hundreds of thousands of subscribers at some point. So it would be cool to expand the tribe. We'll just see how fast that goes. Okay, guys. Peace.